Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Di, and today I'm sharing with you my diary entry for the week of July 28th through August 3rd. I think that's right. Today is Saturday, August 3rd. So I am on my first week of vacation being done. It's been a glorious week. We'll talk about what I've been doing throughout this episode, but I do have some finished reads that I'd like to share with you today. I'm in the middle of one book. I have a couple of knitting projects to talk to you about, so we'll do a Yarnie update section, and then we'll talk about what I've been watching at the end. So let's get into it. So I did finish a novel this week, the novel that I thought I was going to finish, and so I finished Thresher by Michael Cole. This is a shark thriller about a thresher shark that is terrorizing not only the ocean life around the area that it's swimming in, but the people that live there as well. Very, very good book. Exactly what I'm looking for out of a shark thriller. Nothing weird happened. It was really, really interesting, and I really, really enjoyed it. So definitely recommend this author. This is the second book that I've read from them that has to do with sharks. The first one I read was Helicoprion. I think I read that last year, and that one's about a prehistoric shark. And very, very good. Very thrilling. Lots of shark attacks. You know, stuff that you'd expect to get from a shark thriller. That's exactly what these books bring. I know that the author also does other underwater creature thrillers as well. I just prefer the sharks at the moment, and so I'm kind of sticking in that lane, but I think I do want to check out more of this author's work in regards to the other underwater thrillers that he has. So yes, really, really enjoyed this book. It was very interesting. I did listen to part of this on audio as well, and the audio narration was very good also. I borrowed it from Hoopla, so if your library offers Hoopla, see if this book is available for you through that service, through your library. Very, very good book. Really enjoyed it. We'll definitely be reading more from Michael Cole. The rest of what I read this week was for a readathon. So I am participating in the 801 Boys Love Festival readathon that's being hosted by 365 801. This readathon is being held from the 1st of August through the 8th of August. And so I am pretty much just reading some BL manga that I didn't get around to reading during the LGBT plus manga readathon. And so, yeah. There is a bingo board. In looking at what's on the bingo board, I don't think that I'm going to be able to check off very many things, but I'm just reading what I want to read, and if I am able to check off things, great. If not, that's okay too. And so yeah, it's pretty much going to be just manga from me for that readathon. I do have some prose, BL prose, that I really love to read, or BL novels, but with my reading the way it's been over the last week while I've been on vacation, I'm not getting much reading done, so I don't think that I'd be able to finish a book before the readathon's over, but I'll definitely try to finish at least a volume of manga a night. And so I've got 3 volumes here because we are on day 3 of the readathon, and so let's talk about them. First one I have is Bergamot and Sunny Day. This one is by Lyee, Kitahala. This one is published by Tokyo Pop, rated mature. So this is about our character here who works at this cafe that's called Sunny Day, and it is owned by this guy. And our main character can't seem to stay in a relationship for more than 3 months. For whatever reason, he just can't hold on to a boyfriend for more than 3 months. And at the beginning of this volume, he gets dumped again. And he's down and depressed about it. He goes into work, and the boss happens to be in that day. And as he always does, whenever he's in, he jokingly asks our main character out on a date. Basically, like, you want to go out on a date with me today? Not knowing what had happened recently with this guy and his relationship. And so our main character really, like, gets irritated and kind of blows up at the boss. And so he works his day, and he has closing shifts, so he's there closing up by himself, and the boss just happens to be around, and they kind of have a heart-to-heart. And the boss is like, what happened? I was sorry. I found out from one of your coworkers, and I didn't mean for you to take it that way. And so our main character just unloads on his problems with his past relationships and all of that. In a moment of weakness, he ends up having a one-night stand with his boss. And so that kind of leads to some awkwardness, right? But the boss kind of just says, okay, let me just be your middleman, someone to be with in between while you're waiting for your next boyfriend and things like that. And obviously they're going to maintain a relationship. It was cute. There were things about this story that I didn't quite jive with, though, because at the beginning of the story, when you find out what is said to our main character about why his boyfriend breaks up with him, and even throughout the story when you see flashbacks of him being dumped by previous boyfriends, there's a reason that constantly sticks out on why he may have a problem maintaining relationships. But as the story goes on, a different reason is given for why he's not able to maintain these relationships, and it's completely different from what I took as the reason from seeing all of the messages from previous boyfriends and things that were given. And so that didn't jive with me. And also the reason that is given when it is given to us as to why he's not able to maintain his relationship, it just seems like it was put there to have other things happen after that. And I didn't like that at all. So while I did enjoy their communication, there were things in the way that this story was told that didn't make sense to me. And so, yes, but lots of good looking food in here. They work at a cafe, like I said, so there's some instances where he's making drinks, specialty coffee drinks. They're talking about tea a lot. There's a reason that they talk about tea a lot in this book. So you get different types of tea. And one of the types of teas they talk about is Earl Grey tea, which has a note of bergamot in it. So that is why Bergamot and Sunny Days. It was enjoyable, though. I gave this 3.5 stars. And so, yeah, this is how I started off my 801 readathon. I don't know that there were any boxes to check off from this one, but yeah, I enjoyed this one. And then I read The Treasure of the King and the Cat. This is by Kajika. This one is also published by Tokyo Pop, rated teen. So this is a fantasy story about this guy here who's a half elf, and this guy who's kind of his companion. This is labeled as a story that's about kind of a mystery regarding something happening in the land that they live in and people disappearing. But that story doesn't come until much later in this volume. This is a one-shot. And we kind of start off with a story that kind of introduces our characters here. And then we get into that story about the people going missing and things like that. And so it kind of felt a little weird when I'm going into the story after having read the summary about this mystery, and it's this first story doesn't seem to make any sense at all. How is this connected? And it was really just a story for you to know the backgrounds of these characters, or more the background of this character, I would say. You'll learn more about this character and the more predominant story about people going missing and the mystery behind that. This was good. Like I said, there was a bit of a disconnect with what I was expecting and then what I got at the very beginning of the story. This particular story, even though it is listed as a BL or boys love type story, there is very, very light references to any kind of romantic feelings between any of the characters in this story. So besides these two characters, there are a couple of animal companions. You can kind of see a cat here. There's also a bird, and then there are other human characters that come in that bigger story that happens later in the volume. But the romantic like elements are barely there. Like, you would really have to be like knowing that there's romantic elements there. So as far as the BL, like the romance, there's like hardly anything in here. And this character is one of those like really jubilant, kind of crazy characters who just kind of goes off and does whatever he wants and then gets into trouble. And he's constantly saying things off the cuff. Yeah, just like, I don't know. He's not the type of character that I really enjoy. And then you get this guy here who, like I said, they're like companions. And he's just kind of like monotone. If I would hear him talk, I would think that his voice is monotone. And so there's a very big contrast between the two characters, like personalities. But yeah, I would say this was an interesting story. The romance elements weren't there for me. The way that the story opens up and then kind of leads you into another story was kind of weird for me. And so yeah, even though I enjoyed this story, it was just okay. So I gave this one 3 stars. And I don't understand like the title, like how it connects. Like the treasure of the king and the cat. Like a king is talked about, but I don't understand like the treasure part. And a cat is also talked about. And again, I don't. Well, I guess I could understand a connection to a treasure of a cat in regards to this story. But the title doesn't really like fit in either. So I guess it's kind of all of that is kind of causing confusion for me. Here's some of the other characters that we meet in here. But yeah, it was entertaining. I think if I had gone into this without knowing anything about it, it would have been better. Because I had fully expected this to be a more mysterious type of story with our characters trying to figure out that like story, and then having romantic aspects with this being labeled as BL, and that's kind of not what I got. I got the mystery, but it wasn't very like mysterious, and it didn't come until later, and it wasn't what this volume opened up with at all. So yeah, it was okay. 3 stars. And then this one I read last night, or very early this morning. This is volume 1 of the Red Thread. This is by Lazysheep. The original story is by Lazysheep, and it is a Thai BL light novel. And the art for this one is done by Hibiko Haruyama. This one is published by Yen Press, rated older teen. And so this is a, I guess you would call it a Red String of Fate story with a reincarnation element. So we have our 2 characters here on the cover, and this volume opens up with their past life and what happened to them. And then we get their like present lives in the present, and they're trying to find their way back to each other. So I thought this was a really interesting story. I was a little bit confused because with Yen Press titles, they do tell you why certain volumes are rated the way they are. And so this one, even though it says older teen, there it says LV at the bottom here. I don't know if you're going to be able to see that. But LV means that there's language and violence, and that's why this volume is rated the way it is. And I was like, why would there be language and violence? And it's all in the opening pages of this volume. Our 2 characters do have a Romeo and Juliet kind of story. And what happens at the end of Romeo and Juliet. And then they get reincarnated. And our 2 characters go through some stuff at the beginning of this volume. So that's why the language and violence comes in. I wouldn't say language, but violence definitely. And so we follow these two characters in the present, and they both kind of have dreams of their past life, but they don't know that it's their past life. But they've kind of always felt like they were looking for somebody. And then this guy is a junior at college, and this guy has just come into the college as a freshman. And they see each other for the first time at the opening ceremony of the semester. And they're not sure why, but they feel attracted to each other. And so this story kind of follows that. The dreams, things that happened to them, like our character here was diagnosed with what's called hyperventilation syndrome. And it's actually something that I was diagnosed with when I was a teen, but it wasn't really explained to me as to what it was. And like in this manga, it tells you why he was diagnosed with hyperventilation syndrome, and that it's a mental thing that happened that's triggered by stress. And it totally makes sense to me why I was having that when I was a teen, because I had a lot of stress when I was a teen. You know, I did a lot of auditions and music and all of that, and my schedule was packed, and on top of that, you know, keeping up my grades and everything. So stress has kind of been a major thing in my life. But all I was told when I was diagnosed with it was that you have this, you'll eventually grow out of it, and that's that. No reason why, nothing about it being a mental thing that's triggered by stress, nothing of that. I feel like this volume explained it more to me than my doctor did, which is a whole nother issue that I have. But yes, it was interesting to see a character that actually had it, because even up until today, I don't know anybody else who was ever diagnosed with it. And so it was interesting for me to read about that. It's the first time I've kind of seen somebody, like I said, have something that I had. I do still kind of struggle with it, even in my adult years. And so, yeah, it kind of makes sense to me now why I would have those types of episodes. But yeah, he has trauma from his past life that he doesn't understand. And that's kind of in causing him to have these issues in his present life. And yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I gave this one 4 stars. I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens with this one. By the end of this volume, our two characters are just starting to get to know each other. And we do get glimpses of their past life throughout this volume. So through the dreams that our characters have, or there's a full story at the end of how in their previous life they got together. I just really enjoy how the story was laid out, and I enjoy watching our characters. It's kind of emotional. I was really enjoying it. There's a part in here where I laughed out loud because something that this character did was just so embarrassing. I'm like, why'd you do that? But it was because he was so flustered. And yes, really, really enjoyed this volume. Looking forward to reading more in this one. I do find that I enjoy Red Thread of Fate type of stories. There have been a couple. I read He Who Does Not Believe in Fate or something. That one has to do with a guy that can actually see the red strings of fate, and he knows that he's not tied to the person that he has interest in, and I think he tries to change the course of that. I've only read 1 volume in that one. I just picked up the next volume, so I'm looking forward to getting into that one. There's this one, which is another take on it. In this one, you don't see that red string. It's kind of just implied that they're meant to be together, and because they weren't able to do that in their previous life, they're getting the opportunity to try to do that again here. And then I just picked up another one that you'll see in my manga haul for July, which is Tied to You. and that is about a guy who is tied to someone he wants to be with, but that person doesn't want to be with him. I think there's some other complications with that one as well, but I do really like these kind of red thread or red string of fate type of stories. So very interesting. I really enjoyed this one, and I'm looking forward to reading more in this one. I wish they would bring the light novel, though. I wish they would bring the light novel, because I feel like I would probably enjoy that one more. Like I've said before, I do think that with light novels, you do get a broader picture of what's going on, because you don't have to condense things or cut things out because of how much the illustrations take. And so yes, really enjoyed this, and I do love the art style as well. I think the art style is really nice. And so yeah, that's everything I've read for the 801 readathon. I'm not sure what I'm going to read next. I've kind of just been going to my stack and just kind of looking at it every night and being like, okay, this is the one that I'm going to read. And so I pulled out another one last night, which I'll probably read tonight. I'm not sure. I was kind of hemming and hawing on that one, and that's kind of why I ended up with the red thread instead. But yeah, if you're interested in the 801 readathon, I'll link the announcement video down in the description box below. But by time this video goes up, it'll be the day before the readathon ends. This is the second year that 365-801 has had it, so hopefully it'll be back next year. But yes, if you're looking for any BL recommendations, definitely check out the hashtag 801reads. You can see what everybody else is reading, and definitely go check out 365-801's channel. They have really great recommendation videos and things like that. So I'll leave that all for you down in the description box below. And so I think that brings us to what I am currently in the middle of. I am still working on The Hunt for Atlantis by Andy McDermott. This is the first book in the, I always forget, Nina Wilde and Eddie Chase. I always want to say Nina Chase. Nina Wilde and Eddie Chase. So this is about an archaeologist who believes she knows where Atlantis is, and she goes on this adventure with a bodyguard named Eddie Chase and a bunch of other people. Things are really picking up where I am right now. I am on chapter 23, page 383, and it looks like they're going to Tibet now. So this has jumped all over the world. I'm really enjoying this. I am just not like making time to read it, and that's okay. That's okay. Sometimes reads take longer. This book is over 500 pages, and I'm just taking it slow and enjoying it when I can, and I'm not like pushing myself to finish it. So yeah, it's not that it's not interesting. I'm still finding a lot of interest in the story, but I've got the 801 reads now, and this has no BL in it at all, so this won't count. So I definitely want to make sure that I'm reading for the readathon while it's going on, since it's only a few more days. But yeah, still really enjoying this one. I have gotten a couple of audiobook releases released to me from my library that I've been on holds for, so I already know what I'll be reading next after I finish this, but that's for when I read them. So hopefully it won't take me too much longer. But yes, I will be focusing on BL manga for the rest of the readathon. And I guess that brings us to another Yarnie update. So I have a couple of projects to talk to you about, and I have done some mending. So I mentioned to you, I think in the last episode, that there was some mending that I wanted to get done, and I did finally sit down and do that mending. So I had 2 socks that had holes in them that I needed to patch up. So we'll talk about this one first. This is my Clementine sock. I knit this one a couple years ago, I think, during the Olympics. The colorway on this is Helping Hippos 2018 from Lolo Did It. This is in her original base, and the pattern is the Clementine sock by Kay Jones of the Bakery Bears podcast. So you can kind of see it's a ribbed pattern, but it's got these like star designs in them. And on this pair, yes, you're supposed to have alternating heels and toes. And so my other sock actually has a green heel and a pink toe. This sock had a hole in the heel. So I put in a patch. So I bought a speed weave from Amazon that was super cheap. It was like $6. And I used it for the first time. And I was a little concerned because it was so close to the heel edge that I wouldn't be able to put the patch there. It seems to be okay, so I checked all of the edging and I think I made it wide enough that this patch should be fine. So that's where I put the patch on this one, and I used the same yarn that I did for the heel. And so this is Material Girl from Lolo Did It in the plush sock base. And so yes, the two sock bases that I do enjoy from Lolo Did It are the L'Original and the plush. I think the L'Original is 85% merino and 15% nylon, and then the plush is your 75-25. So that was the first sock. This one is my sock. I will be making a pair for my daughter. I think the same pattern, but her alternating heels and toes are going to be this green, which is Lucky, I think, in the plush. And she has a like orange highlighter color. And I don't know what that one's called, but I have those set aside for her. So she'll be getting a sock in these. And the Helping Hippos colorway from Lolo Did It, she brings it back from time to time when there are disasters, unfortunate situations that happen, to help raise money to donate. And so this was one of those times. And so yeah, it's her hippo gray colorway with a rainbow speckle inside. Really, really love this yarn. I bought a couple different skeins to help out with her fundraising efforts with that. So yes, really enjoy the Lolo Did It yarn. And then the other sock that I had to patch was for my daughter, and hers actually had a blowout in the toe, and so she got a patch, quite large patch. I was actually thinking of redoing the entire toe for her, but I realized that I didn't have any more of this color yarn. So this is Knit Pick Stroll in Hollyberry, and I looked and I looked and I looked and I didn't have any. So I had two options. I could redo the toe in just the black or just put the patch. And so we decided to just put the patch. Again, I used the speed weave, and the speed weave just gives a really, really nice sturdy fabric. So I think this will hold up well. And so that's Knit Pick Stroll in black. So this sock is my daughter's Dracula sock. This is the Dracula colorway from Lolo Did It in the L'Original base. The pattern is the Vanilla Souffle sock pattern by Christy from Yarn Cafe Creations. And so, yeah, again, the L'Original base was pretty much the base that I started buying out from Lolo Did It until I tried out the plush sock, and then that kind of became my go-to. Either one I really enjoy, and depending on when I go to purchase whatever base is available, that's the one I get. If plush sock is not available, I get the L'Original, and vice versa. And so, yes. I will say that I've only had to patch up 2 socks for my daughter so far. Her Ghostbusters sock, which was the very kind of first sock that I made out of, well, it was her second sock that actually had a longer leg, because the first sock I made her was like a really short pair of shorties. But the first one that I made her with a leg was her Ghostbusters sock, which was from Lolo Did It in the L'Original base, Ghostbusters colorway. I hand knit a patch on that one to match the texture that was on the sock. For my first like mending job, I don't think I did too bad, but it was a bit difficult. I much prefer the mending with the speed weave. It wasn't very hard at all, I think the trick with the speed weave is to make sure that you push down the rows every time you pass the yarn through so that it gets nice and thick. And so yeah, speed weave, if you haven't tried one, definitely for mending, I think it's really, really great. So I'm so glad that I did that. And these patches didn't take very long at all. It wasn't too hard or difficult. And yes, I think this is going to be very, very useful for me, and I'm very happy with these mends. So yeah, 2 mended socks, and then I have 2 projects to talk to you about. So let's start off with the mini last unicorn sweater for my niece. This is a pattern by Meghan Regan over at Bad Wolf Girl Studios. I have found myself wanting to monogamously work on this. So this is what it looks like. You can see that I did trim off all those ends, so those aren't in the way. This is where I was the last time I talked to you, and so I finished the body and the hem, and then I also finished the first sleeve. So very, very happy with this still. I did go ahead and start on the second sleeve last night. You can see that I do have a hole here in the underarm, but I will patch that up. I actually had the same hole on this side, and so I patched that up last night as well. And I had a matching one on this side also, so yes. You can see all of my decreases here. That's something about Meghan's patterns, is that the sleeve like rapidly decreases and it gets really like fitted around your forearm. And I think for me, I much prefer a more gradually decreased arm and it not being so fitted around the wrist area, forearm area. But because I had already done my niece's sister's following pattern, I thought I'm just gonna follow pattern again. And so yeah, I am very happy with this still. I will say though, I still have not found a bind off that I really, really like. So that's the only kind of difference there is in the construction of what I've done for my nieces, is the bind off. For my older niece, the bind off I used was the bind off where you add a yarn over after you knit one. So you knit one, you yarn over, you do whatever on the next one. If you're following pattern, for me it was a purl one, and then you pass both the yarn over and the knitted over to bind off the stitch. And for me, while I thought it was stretchy, it does leave like a purl like bump on the outside of the ribbing. And so for this one, I wanted to try something different, and I did the knit 2 through the back loop bind off. And I do like the edge of this bind off better because it doesn't give you that extra like purl bump on the outside, and it just looks more finished to me. But I don't know that, I don't know, I guess it is stretchy, but for me, like, I don't know, I thought it wasn't as stretchy. So I don't know, it might just be me. Let me know what your favorite bind off method is for sweaters. I don't know. I also increased my needle size when I did the bind off. So I did the ribbing in the size 2 needle as per instructions, but I wanted a little bit more give with the bind off, and so I increased to the 4 just to do the bind off round. And I think that helped a little bit. But yeah, the edge is definitely not as stretchy as the sweater. So yeah, I hope that's not a problem. I don't know, because my kid's not little anymore, so I can't like see, but it's like I notice it's not as stretchy in the arm area. So yeah, there's not as much stitches there, but I feel like this isn't stretching very much at all. Like, it stretches more in the wrist, but not around. So, yeah, I'm having a really hard time with bind-offs. And it's always been an issue for me. I just keep trying different ones. I've tried the one where you add a twist on every one, and that's not stretchy enough for me. And I really don't want to do sewn bind-offs. Just because I know that I'm not going to be able to figure out how much yarn I actually need to do the bind-off. And then I'm going to have to run into an issue. But I would much prefer to do a knitted bind-off than to do a sewn bind-off. But let me know what your favorite bind-off method is, especially for like sleeves and bottoms of sweaters. That would be really helpful. But yes, that's the one I did for this one, is the knit 2 through the back loop bind-off. And so I will continue to work on this sleeve. I don't know, there's just something about this project that was just like, pick me up. So that's kind of all I worked on this week, was this sweater. So I'm still very happy with it though. It still looks great, and I am almost done. So let's see if I can get this one done by the time I talk to you next. So that is the Mini Last Unicorn sweater, Megan Regan of Bad Wolf Girl Studios. This is Lion Brown Pound of Love in turquoise. The unicorns are done in fruit salad by Hobby Lobby. I love this yarn. And then the rainbow is a deconstructed mandala cake from Lion Brand in the gnome colorway. So yes, very happy with this one. Size 6 to 8 on this one, and it's going very well. So that is my niece's Mini Last Unicorn. And then I did cast on a brand new project. So I think I mentioned to you last week that I was going to an Olympics watch party at our theater this week, which was interesting. It was very empty. It was an interesting experience. We went and we got there at the time, or like half an hour before the time it started, and the doors were locked. And it was like, we're here at the right time, right? And so I had to like look in, and there was nobody really around. And so we were just kind of standing around outside. And finally somebody came out and was like, are you here for the Olympics watch party? And I was like, yeah. And so they let us in. We were the only ones there. And then they told us, oh, the concessions are closed. You can buy a drink, but that's it. And so it's like, okay. And so we bought a drink and we went in, and it was just like watching the TV replay, or the TV live, because it was live at those early morning hours, on the big screen in recliner chairs in the air conditioning. So that wasn't bad at all. And as the first hour went by, like every like 10 or 15 minutes somebody would walk in. So in the end there were only 5 people in the theater. We were all in different rows. And it was fun. Yeah, I would probably go again. I was talking to a lady that was there, and she had gone to the opening ceremonies one, the watch party for the opening ceremonies, and she said it was packed. And so she said it was really fun. It was really loud, that there were people like, you know, cheering and stuff. But because there were only 5 of us, it was a lot more subdued. And so it was still fun. I enjoyed it, but I knew I needed a project to work on, and I couldn't exactly bring a big old sweater. And so I cast on another sock. And you're like, but you already have socks on the needles. Well, I needed something a little bit more plain. And so I basically just took this sock cake wrapper that I hauled a couple episodes ago. This is my Christmas Gnomes sock cake wrapper from Oddly Adorable Knits in the extra large size. And I just put my cake and my needles in here, and I put it on the bottom of my purse. And so inside I had this yarn. So this is another Lolo Did It yarn. This is Lolo Did It in her sparkle sock base, and I don't know if you're going to be able to see those sparkles at all. but it's a silver like stellina. And this is her Witchcraft and Wizardry colorway. So it's part of the Harry Potter collection. This is deep stash for me. This has got to be 2 or 3 or 4, maybe 5 years old. I do remember that this was a free skein for me. I had earned enough points that I could get a free skein, and so I threw it in with my birthday order that year. But basically it's the house colors of the Harry Potter houses. So you got some red, green, yellow, and blue. Kind of, they're not speckles, but they're like sections in the yarn. But I thought, you know, those are the colors of the Olympic rings, right? And so I wound this up, and then I thought, okay, the only color that's missing is black. And so I just use some Knit Pick Stroll in black for the heels and toes, and then I'd have some nice Olympic socks. And so that's what I did. I cast on before we went, and I did my ribbing, and then it's coming off the needle. I didn't put a stitch stopper on it. Hold on one second. I did use my collage 9-inch circulars, since this were just going to be plain vanilla socks. I wasn't sure if I wanted this yarn to be in plain vanilla socks, but I thought, you know what, these are perfect Olympic colors, and so we're just going to go with it. I don't normally do plain socks for myself, but these are pretty cool. So you can see how that's working up with all of the colors of the Olympics in there, minus the black. Again, it is a sparkle sock, so I don't think the sparkle is coming off very well on camera, but there is some silver stellina in there. And so I thought I would just do the umbrella socks pattern by Kay Jones, because I wasn't sure how much knitting I was actually going to be able to get done while I was in the theater. And so, yeah, I could actually just put in a regular heel and toe now, but I think I'm just going to continue to do the umbrella sock. So the umbrella sock is an afterthought heel with an umbrella afterthought heel, and then an umbrella toe from Kay Jones at the Bakery Bears. And I think that's just what I'm going to do. So I haven't worked on these at all since we had gone to that watch party, but I will be working on these sporadically. Like I said, I'm doing these on my collage 9-inch circulars. The collage needles are interesting to work with. They are square needles, and they've got a kink in the needle as well. I will say that I prefer working on 9-inch circulars that don't have the little bend in the arm, because for me, I feel with the way that I hold 9-inch circulars, it works better for me. But this isn't bad. I do find that the material that they use for the needle is a little bit more grippy than a regular metal needle, but the knitting experience is still enjoyable. I'm not having any issues with it at all, and so yeah, enjoying working on the collage needles. I think I definitely want to try some of their regular needles to see how they feel and work on like a sweater project or a shirt or some kind of garment project. And so yes, enjoying these. So that is my Olympics socks. And so yeah, I thought that would be very fitting for the year. Plus it'll give me something to like identify in my collection that's like, okay, you worked on these during the Olympics. Like with my Clementine socks, I remember working on those during the Olympics that year. I think it was the Rio Olympics, Summer Olympics. And so, yeah, really enjoying that. Seem to be pulling out a lot of my Lolo Did It yarn. Huh. I do have quite a bit. For a while there, I was exclusively purchasing Lolo Did It yarn. And so I have a lot of different Lolo Did It colorways from her different collections. I do have some skeins from her Harry Potter collection. I have lots of her Christmas colorways because I love Christmas yarns. And then she's got some other like Halloween colorways that I really, really liked. I picked up some from her movies collection, and she's got Halloween colorways that I really, really enjoy. And so, yeah, I have lots of single skeins, and I've just been like looking at them a lot lately. And I'm really glad that I pulled this one out for the Olympics, because I do think that it's the perfect Olympics colorway. And so, yes, those are the projects that I worked on over the last week. So we'll see if I can get my mini last unicorn sweater done by the time I talk to you next, and possibly some more work done on my other pair of socks, the Drippity Drop, the Olympic socks, and I will get back to my Gemini. I will say that since I have not been working on my Gemini, my thumb is healing up nicely, so it has to be the Gemini. I will know for sure once I start working on the Gemini again, so we'll see about that. But I think I've been very productive this week as far as the knitting goes. I definitely have not been knitting as much as I thought I would have been knitting, though, because I've been playing video games. And so, yes, I have been playing Genshin Impact. I have been working on all these quests that I just have not had time to dive into. And it's been fun. I've been really enjoying it. And it's something that I don't get to do a lot. I can put in like 45 minutes or so here and there every day while I'm, on my lunch break. And that's usually what I do. But I don't really get dedicated time to like work on a specific quest through its entirety, and I enjoy that because the storytelling is very good, I think, in Genshin, and so I've been enjoying that, and like building up my characters and working on some of the fighting quests and things, and so it's been fun. Plus my daughter's helping me out, and she's working on stuff too, and we play together, but not like in the same world. We kind of just play in our own separate worlds at the same time in the same room, and so it's been fun. I've been really enjoying it. My Olympics watching experience has been very different this year. My feed, for whatever reason, is not very good. Like, I rescanned and everything, my antenna, and even though it says I have 5 like the strongest reception on that channel, it's still giving me problems, but it's much better now than it was at the very beginning of the Olympics, and I did all of my research and prep before time. I checked the channel to see what the reception was like, and it was fine, and then for whatever reason when the Olympics started, it went down the drain, so I had to do a bunch of fiddling with that, but it seems to be okay now. I will say that for whatever reason, they're not really showing all of the American athletes, at least not in the gymnastics. Like, I've noticed, like, especially like with the gymnastics, like men's gymnastics, they came in on the broadcast after 2 of the 3 Americans had already gone. I'm like, where's the other 2? Like, so we checked the replay on Peacock, because I do have a subscription, and it started exactly where my recording started, and so it's been kind of disappointing, because you'd think that they'd show all of the American Olympians, and that just hasn't been the case. And so we've kind of been watching the different broadcasts on Peacock as well, and it's interesting because there are like 2 different broadcasts. There's the TV broadcast, and then there's the like regular broadcast that I think is from USA or something, and that's usually longer and you get a more comprehensive view. So yeah, it's been interesting. Plus the commentators are different for each broadcast, and so you kind of get different takes on what's going on, which has also been interesting. And so yeah, I had noticed that there's not as much diving broadcasted. The volleyball that we're watching, because we're watching Japan men's volleyball, we've had to watch on Peacock as well, and of course watching Japan men's volleyball because of Haikyuu. and really enjoying those games. So we'll be watching the quarterfinals, I think, tonight. We watched USA versus Japan last night. Very, very exciting. I will say that I didn't quite enjoy the commentary, though. It's interesting when you're watching and the commentators are heavily pulling for one team. When we had watched Japan versus Argentina, the commentator was British, so he had no bias to one team or another, and so I much enjoyed the commentation on, is that even a word? The commentator's views on the plays, because he wasn't biased. But for the USA-Japan men's volleyball game, it was very biased towards the USA team, which I understand, but at the same time, they were taking digs at the Japan team that I didn't enjoy. And so I find that I much prefer a more unbiased commentator as far as sports go. And like I said, I don't watch sports very often, and the only time I really do is during the Olympics. And so, yeah. Commentating has never really bothered me as much as it did this year. But it's been interesting, getting different commentators. With the men's gymnastics, there, I think, is an Australian lady commentating, or was it the swimming? They're just different people that you don't normally hear. Now, I normally like the TV broadcast commentators on the swimming. I definitely enjoy them. They're very jubilous and exciting, and I enjoy their enthusiasm. And they're very, I would say, respectful to the other countries' athletes, which I appreciate. And they still, have nice things to say about other countries' athletes. And I think that's what really irritated me about watching the USA versus Japan volleyball game, was because they were taking digs and saying things that I would consider disrespectful about the Japan players, and I didn't enjoy that. So we'll watch Japan versus whoever they're playing for the semifinals tonight. We're behind on some diving because, like I said, they weren't showing it on the TV, so we've got to watch that through Peacock. There's some swimming, and so we've got some watching ahead of us tonight. But I've been thoroughly enjoying what we've been watching, and there are lots of other things we need to catch up on as well. But yeah, it's definitely been a different type of Olympics watching experience for me. The last 3 rounds of Olympics, I would basically start with the very first recording of the day and watch the entire thing through. And this year, that's not what's happening for me. And so, yeah, it's different, but I'm enjoying it, and I'm enjoying my time, and I think that's all that's important. And so I think that's pretty much all I have to tell you for right now. So, yeah, let me know down in the comments below what you've been up to, what you've been reading, what you've been watching, what you've been working on, what sports have you been enjoying watching the Olympics, if you are watching the Olympics, or are you participating in the 801 Reads Readathon? I would really love to know. And if nothing else, and you'd just like to let me know that you were here, if you could leave me any type of sports emoji for the Olympics down in the comments below, that would be greatly appreciated and would really help me out. And that will do it for me today. So I hope you're all doing great. I hope you're all safe and healthy. And until next time, take care and smile always. Bye.